I met her in the most ordinary way, in the corner of a bustling cafe where the world seemed to slow down just enough for our paths to cross. She had this effortless charm, the kind that made people lean in without realizing it, the kind that made even the mundane seem extraordinary. At first, I thought she was just another friend, someone I could laugh with, someone whose company made the hours pass quietly, pleasantly. But somewhere between coffee cups and late-night talks, I began to sense that the line between friendship and something more was blurred. She was careful, though. Every time I caught myself imagining us closer than we were, she would pull back, smiling as if to reassure me. "We're just friends," she would say, her tone light, convincing even. And I believed her. I wanted to believe her. There's a comfort in friendship, a safety in knowing someone is there without the complications of love. So I settled into that space, thinking I understood her, thinking I had read the map of her heart. For months, we shared everything, our fears, our dreams, our frustrations with the world. She would tell me about her day, her small victories, and her quiet disappointments, and I listened, thinking of her as the sister I had never had. Yet, there was a warmth in her gaze, a subtle lingering of touch, that made me question whether friendship alone could explain the way my chest tightened whenever she laughed near me. But each time, she would laugh it off, deflecting any serious thought with a casual joke. Then came the night that started like any other. We were walking through the streets, the city lights casting long shadows, the air crisp with the hint of autumn. She was talking animatedly about a trip she was planning with a group of friends, her eyes shining with excitement. I nodded along, pretending to listen, but inside, a strange unease had begun to grow. There was something in her tone, something in the way she avoided my gaze at certain moments, that whispered of secrets I wasn't supposed to know yet. It was a simple message that started it all. A notification on my phone, a group chat name that I didn't recognize. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it, thinking it would be harmless. And there she was, in the photos, in the conversations, laughing and leaning close to someone else. My heart sank as I scrolled through the messages, realizing that everything she had told me, every reassurance, every joke about just friends, had been a carefully constructed illusion. I remember sitting there, frozen, trying to reconcile the person I thought I knew with the reality that was unfolding on my screen. The images, the laughter, the shared glances between her and someone else, it all cut deeper than I could have imagined. How could someone be so close to you, so intimate in thought and presence, and still hide something so vital? I felt the room spin around me, the walls closing in, as betrayal settled like a weight on my chest. When I confronted her, I expected anger, perhaps tears, maybe even guilt. But what I found was a practiced calm, a mask that barely quivered as she explained. "It's not what you think," she said, her voice steady, rehearsed even. "We're just friends." But the truth was in the way her eyes flickered, in the hesitation between words, in the faint tremor she couldn't entirely hide. That was the moment I realized I had been both blind and willing to be blind, hoping that her story was true because the alternative was too painful to consider. Days passed in silence. I watched her from a distance, trying to understand how someone could hold so many truths in private while presenting another entirely to me. Every smile she offered, every casual touch, now carried the weight of suspicion. And yet, I couldn't bring myself to hate her entirely. There was a complexity to her, a human imperfection that made her deceit sting even more deeply. I mourned not just the betrayal, but the idea of the person I thought she was. It was only when I allowed myself to step back that I began to see the full picture. She had never intended malice, at least not entirely. Her secrecy was born from fear, from the pressure of balancing her own desires with the expectations of our friendship. I realized then that betrayal doesn't always come from hate, sometimes it comes from love twisted by insecurity, from choices made in shadowed corners to protect oneself. Understanding didn't erase the hurt, but it framed it differently. I decided to confront the truth one last time, calmly, without accusation. We sat across from each other in the same cafe where it had all begun. The air between us was thick with words unspoken. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, not to blame, but to understand. And she, finally letting the mask slip, told me about the fear of losing me, about the confusion of her own heart. She confessed not just the secret, but the guilt that had weighed on her for months, a burden she carried silently. In that moment, I realized that people are rarely simple, that friendship and love can tangle in ways we don't expect. I felt a mix of anger, relief, and a strange tenderness. We had crossed a line, yes, but we had also survived a revelation that could have shattered everything entirely. The bond we had shared wasn't erased, but it was transformed, reshaped by honesty, even if it came late. And so, I walked away that day with a clearer heart, carrying both the ache of betrayal and the lessons it had brought. She remained a part of my story, a reminder that even in deception, there can be a human truth waiting to be understood. Life has a way of teaching us through the cracks, through the shadows of those we trust most. I learned that the hardest truths are often those closest to home, and that forgiveness, whether given or withheld, is a choice that defines the way we move forward. Did this story touch your heart? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so more hearts can feel these stories too.